Hello, everyone, and welcome to the SavvyCast. This is Jamie, and I'm so excited that you're here, whether you're watching on YouTube or listening to the podcast. Today is going to be a very, very special day for me and for you all. This is going to be a great episode. I'm looking at my beautiful friend, Marie Marino. Marie, hey.
Hello.
For those of you who followed the podcast for a while, you've heard Marie before, or you've seen her on YouTube. She has been a guest previously. We've talked charcuterie boards. We have talked so many fun things. And today, guys, this is going to be an episode that I think is going to be helpful, practical, and a blessing to anyone listening or watching. It's just one that I've been wanting to do forever. Marie's very busy, but she finally carved out some time to share what's going to be some very helpful information. So, Marie, oh my goodness, It's always so fun. And y'all, we were supposed to start at 11:30, and it's almost 12 because we've been talking. We just can't get enough. Can't get enough. I want to give just a quick little history of how I know this beautiful lady. We both went to Auburn University, and we were sorority sisters, and we were Phi Mu's at Auburn, and we just got to know each other there. And then after we graduated, we sort of went separate directions, and like all of the people you go to college with, you lose touch. And our husbands are the ones who brought us back together, because Marie, how did EJ and Zane find each other?
Somehow through business. Founders helped him sell, actually.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right. EJ is a very successful businessman, entrepreneur. And anyway, he and Zane connected, and wow, we got back together, and could not love this lady anymore. And she's one of my dearest friends and one of the smartest people I know. And I'm just so glad to share her with you. Okay, Marie, before we dig into the topic, and guys, the topic is going to be around food, but it's on blessing others with the gift of food. Yes. And there's some very specific ways that Marie's going to share. But Marie, I always ask, what would you choose as your last meal? Now, you're an Enneagram 7, so I want to let everybody who knows the Enneagram know that a 7 doesn't like to be in a box. Like everything's fun, everything's great, more the merrier on the dinner table. So I'm curious.
So I thought about this because I've been on the podcast before, as you said, but you've not asked me this question. So I knew it was going to be coming, and I started thinking, I cannot pick a dish for my last meal. It really needs to be, or the question that I'm going to answer, should I say, is a last day of food.
Yeah.
Because that just kind of fits more of my personality, kind of all the things. I would start off with, and I don't drink coffee every day, you know that, Jamie, but I would start off my last day of food with, and this is a new or limited edition Nespresso flavor, and it is the iced coconut. So,
no, I did not know that. I've got to order it. Okay, because you and I
might be all sold out because I have literally bought up everything.
It's
so good, but
Nespresso.
Yes.
Okay.
The Nespresso iced coconut coffee, and that with a little bit of vanilla bliss, the best. It is the best. Okay. And with that, I would have those, the little waffles from Costco. And that Belgian waffle. They come in the big, pack of 12, and they're little individually wrapped.
Weren't those what part of what we brought?
Yes.
Christine for the bridesmaid?
Yes.
Okay.
And that's what got me started. I was looking at it thinking, these can't be that good. No, I was going around after the wedding going, thankfully that person did not eat their wine.
They're so good.
So I had a stash for a while.
Yeah.
And, but I would definitely have one of those. And they are so good. So good. So then I think from there, I would move into, for lunch, I think I would have some sushi. And Jinsei Sushi here in Birmingham has that, it's an appetizer and it's called Yellowtail Serrano. And it's just thinly sliced yellowtail with a little slice of serrano pepper. It's got cilantro, and I think it's like a ponzu sauce, and it is phenomenal. So I would definitely have that. Maybe a glass of bubbly with that, because we got to have our bubbles. And then for dinner, I think I would just go old school and have EJ cook me a nice filet on the egg. And I would slice that and have it just on my salad, my normal salad that I always make with the avocado and chopped lettuces. And then you put the feta on top of that, and it kind of like melts into the steak. So I would have that, and then I would eat an entire loaf of Chicago Italian bread from Publix, not one piece, the entire loaf.
Now, let me ask you this. I do the Rosemary Parmesan from the bakery. Is the Chicago different?
It is just thinly sliced, plain, like a French kind of crusty bread, but it's kind of fatter. So good. So good.
Okay. I'm going to try that.
So I would have that buttered up.
And then what about dessert?
Dessert, I think I would have to have something chocolate, like maybe one of those, molten chocolate cakes with the vanilla ice cream, because you got to have your chocolate. I think I'd have to end with chocolate. So definitely.
I could thoroughly enjoy your last day of food myself.
Yes.
So I knew you would have some great things. And by the way, guys, her salad that she just mentioned has become like our go-to salad. And I just shared it on my Instagram yesterday. And it's never going to be the way she makes it, but the simplicity belies how fabulous that salad is. So anyway, so maybe one day she can write it out and she can perform it on the blog for us.
I love it.
Okay, Marie, let's just jump in. You're going to talk about blessing others with the gift of food. And the reason I have chosen you to do this is because I have never in my life, and I'm 56, I've never seen anyone that has been as consistent with this in a way that you were with Joe, your brother. And I just watched you. You inspired me. It blessed me to see how you ministered to your brother. Can you just give everyone the backstory?
Yes. Well, you're talking about my sweet, precious baby brother, and he was 10 years younger than me. He was the baby brother that I would feed bottles to. So he would call me Mother Superior because I tried to mother him constantly, but just a phenomenal, just an amazing man. And he just an amazing husband and father, and just so talented in so many ways. I mean, he was an athlete. He was an artist who sculpted, painted. He was a proficient drummer who taught drums to underprivileged kids, and he played in several bands and at church bands and different venues. I mean, he was just amazing. And then he was a CPA, and he was just the funniest person ever. We always say that he was the youngest of 5 kids, and all of the talent and everything got kind of funneled down to him. Just an amazing human being. Miss him every single day. He was diagnosed he had a spot on his ear back in 2008. And at the time, I was actually asking my mom about this yesterday. At the time, I don't think that they knew it was melanoma, or it might have been a rare form, but they treated him, and exactly, I think 10 years later, it came back, and it came back with a vengeance. And so he
was how old when it came back, Marie?
Okay, he passed away. He was 46, I guess so. So I guess like 43, 44, something like that. And the last 3 years, it was not good. He had ups and downs, but he definitely fought, especially those last 2 years. He fought, you know, a battle. It actually had moved into his bones and in a lot of pain. But, you know, I'll say this, he was such a blessing to others. He was always encouraging to others. He did not want people to, you know, feel bad or have to watch him suffer. So he was very easy to love. And his friends would tell you that, and people that knew him, he just was an amazing man. So he was very easy to do things for sure. But I actually he passed away in September 2021, so almost a year. I actually started consistently cooking for him and his family probably 2 years before that, or close to 2 years. It was pretty much every week. Some weeks I would skip, but most every week for those 2 years, I cooked for them. And I say cooked for them, you know, sometimes it might be a dish here or there, but a lot of times I would make the plan. I would cook like all day, Sunday or Monday, and deliver them a week's worth of food. And that is my gift. I mean, I think I do love others through food. It doesn't, you know, they say that if it's your passion, you can do it for hours and not think you've even done it. I mean, I literally could be cooking all day and it was just, it was like, oh my goodness, it's 4 o'clock. I've been doing this all day. But so it was not a burden for me to do it at all. I will also say that, you know, a lot of times, again, this was my baby brother, and I'm going to try not to get too emotional, but, you know, when, you know, you're hurting, when someone around you is hurting. And a lot of times that makes you helpless. That makes you, you know, I don't know what to say, you know, I don't know what to do. So sometimes we can avoid really what's right in front of us because we really don't know what to do. We just get in that almost like a helpless mode. You know, something that someone said years ago, and I wish I could remember who it was, because I would certainly credit them with this statement: if I can't be happy, then I will be useful.
Oh,
because in being useful, I will glimpse happiness. And I think that is so true. If you don't know what to do for someone, do something, you know, show up. And if you can show up with food, I think it's all the better, you know. But
and may I preface and let everyone know something that I don't know if you'll mention. During the last part of these years that you took food to Joe, you were living at the lake because y'all were finishing your home. So you were not only preparing and packaging all this food, you were driving an hour.
Yeah.
I mean, on top, an hour to bring it here and then an hour to go back to the lake. I mean, it was not just like running food next door the whole time you did that.
Right. And, you know, it's funny that you said that. And I also was planning a wedding, but, you know, there was so much during the past 2 years.
Yes.
I mean, oh my goodness. I mean, and everyone has their, you know, to me, the past 2 years of COVID or whatever, you know, there was so much stress in everybody's lives. Mm-hmm. And, you know, people struggled with losing jobs and, you know, just having kids at home. And, you know, so I think that, you know, the things that maybe I had that were on my plate that were busy were very happy things, you know, building another home, being able to live it on Lake Martin while I was building the home is really a blessing.
Yeah.
Especially during COVID when everything was kind of crazy. Being able to plan my daughter's wedding, you know, those were good things, busy things, but those were good things all the same. And so I do realize that a lot of people had during those times, you know, a lot of maybe negative things. There's always going to be, you know what, there's always going to be a reason to be too busy, you know, to bless somebody else. And that's when you have to take a step back and you know, it's not all about you. You know, it's not all about you. So, you know, just show up. If you don't know what to say, you know, you don't know what to say, but just show up. Just be there. Sit with someone. Like I said, bring food. And I'm going to share some recipes and some things that I brought, some of my brother's favorites. But even if you don't know how to cook, or if you're that's kind of not your thing, you can still show up and, get a loaf of, bakery bread or something, or just, go pick up something, brings, something that, that the kids like or something. It doesn't necessarily have to mean a lot of hours spent in the kitchen, but you can certainly do that too. But I think it's showing up. And when you show up, it is amazing, how, to me, time multiplies. And all of a sudden you have that time to drive there and back, or to take the time to make the food, or take the time to pick up the food, or just spend the time with that person, or the family that's suffering. It's just amazing how time multiplies. And guess what? You end up having enough time. Somehow, I believe that the Lord just blesses you and you end up with enough time.
Like the loaves and fishes, he makes it happen.
He sure does. So, that's what
you are his hands and feet.
Yes.
Any time we love on anyone, we're doing it as Jesus would.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely. And it doesn't feel like a burden. I really believe this. And I say this, I miss my brother every day, but I feel like I probably got more out of it than his family did. The ability to help someone else and to give of yourself. And that's actually something that my brother Joe would say, as a gifted person in so many areas of his life. He would always say, you need to give yourself away. You need to, as a painter, you paint, you give those things. You bless the world, you bless others with the talents that God's given you. And guess what? You end up blessed. I mean, you do. You do. So I can certainly say from experience, when I look back, it does seem like kind of a blur. Oh my goodness, that when I was looking, I kept notebooks of what I would make every week, just so I wouldn't be repeating stuff all the time. And just to kind of now look back over those notebooks, and I was thinking, oh my goodness, it is a lot, but it didn't feel like a lot in the middle of it. It just felt like loving someone, if that makes sense.
And I watched you because you and I have a favorite form of communication, Voxer. It's like the walkie-talkie, where we can leave long messages, short messages. When we have time, we can listen to each other when we have time. So there's never a sense of urgency, but we can always keep a conversation going. Right. And you would share with me what you were doing, or maybe what you were making. And I would just be like, Marie, how are you packaging this? Or how are you keeping this warm? Or what? I had so many questions, and, you've shared some with me, but would you just share with everyone who's listening or watching, how do you get started? What are some things that, if you do want to cook, and you like to cook, how do you get started? I know you've got to have supplies, you've got to have recipes, and you've got to have a schedule. So
yes. And I mean, and you just hit it on the head. I mean, you definitely need to plan. And in that planning, you need to think about, what are some of the things that this family, or, that this person, what do they need? A lot of this is, you think, oh, it's common sense, but, as we know, common sense sometimes flies out the window when you're busy, or when you're kind of stressed out and you're kind of wondering, what can I do? What should I do? So it is good to go back to just those common sense things of thinking about what would they like? And I know for a while, and I say this, and my brother ended up being vegetarian. So that was a little bit of a wrinkle. But then again, sometimes I would make other things for the other members of his family. Like I would make a soup with chicken in, and he'd be like, he would eat it anyway, which makes you feel good. But I definitely would not have made a week's worth of food with beef and pork and all the stuff that I knew he would not be able to eat, So you definitely need to take the family into situation. And also, I think, like you said about the tools, having the proper tools, and it's not anything necessarily expensive. It's just having things like foil pans. I just lived off of, or not lived off of, and I think I made a list here. Okay, the Rubbermaid, like the big extra large bowls. They have the red lid.
Yes.
I always used that for soups, you know, and then they've got just the medium-sized ones. I would use that for some of my rice dishes.
Now, may I ask you about your Rubbermaid? I have a huge one with the red lid. Now, it just snaps on. It doesn't have the side snaps. It just sort of fastens. So it's not necessarily spill proof. Now you can get the glass ones that they snap on all sides. But all you needed was and that is one of the best. It's one of the biggest bowls you can get for soup.
And I'm glad you brought that out, because I mean, I wouldn't have turned it upside down. I mean, because you know, like you
gotta be careful.
But you also, that's a great point, especially if you are making food. You don't want someone to feel like, oh my goodness, I've got all these dishes I need to get back to people. That's right. That's a great point. Whatever you give or you use to pack your food in, make sure that they are either able to, that they don't have to worry about getting it back to you. They can either throw it away, or like I know Joe's wife, Melissa, I would go drop off food and she would actually have the little bowls that she had washed, just the plastic bowls that she had washed out, and she'd have me a little sack and I would go fill them back up again. So, you know, you think, oh, I don't want to use plastic. Is that, you know, bad for the environment? But you really can use and reuse those better quality Rubbermaid or bowls like that. And I do obviously get the ones that are the BPA free. But you can reuse them. And what I would do is just get, you know, just to label it, you know, I would just get like the painter's tape, like that green, I think it's like a green frog or whatever tape, and just write on the top what things are. And then they can peel off the tape, they can wash it, or they can just throw it away. But if they want to reuse the bowl, then it doesn't have, you know, writing all over it. But that, the full pans, the Reynolds nonstick full pans, I liked a lot of times the ones with the lids. If not, you know, just put the heavy duty foil over the top. Ball jars and things like that you don't mind, you know, letting go of, to put sauces and dressings and things like that in. And one thing, and I did, you know, you said that things are not necessarily spill proof, and believe you me, I learned quick of, you know, don't overfill some of those soup bowls. Don't fill them up where they're, you know, totally to the top. But one thing that I did is I just kept a cooler in the back of my car. And it was really less to keep everything cold, even though I was driving an hour and a half. You know, usually it wasn't, things wouldn't get necessarily, you know, thawed out or whatever, but it just would help keep things together where they're not
sliding around in the back or spilling. Yeah.
And even then, you know, it was almost like puzzles to make sure that this fit here in depending on the size of cooler that you used. So I also, obviously during COVID, we were all ordering everything online from Amazon constantly. So I would keep those, you know, the air packing cushions, they look like pillows. I just kept those. And so I would kind of pack those around the dishes too, so that they wouldn't be sliding around either within the cooler or however I was packing, just to kind of keep them together.
Now, Marie, these are just the cushions. They're not for the freezer. You can get some shaped that way that you can freeze. Did you just use the regular air packing cushions?
I just used the packing things that came out of Amazon box.
Oh, you mean the plastic?
It looks like
little bubbles.
Yes, they have bubbles, but some of them look like they're little pillows. Does that make sense? You know what I'm talking about?
That is such a great idea.
And, you know, that's anytime, you know, I mean, just to kind of, you know, cushion it so that it wasn't all especially when I did soup, because I was always worried that I would, you know, get in the back and there would be no soup left in the bowl when I, you know, by the time I delivered it. But all of that that's invaluable. You know, the bowls, the full pans, the individual full sheets, different things like that to help keep things, you know, together and separated. And one thing, and I know we're going to talk about some of the specific food that were Joe's favorites and things that I think people would enjoy, things that I make a lot of times for people, not just Joe. But think about the way that you are delivering it to them. You know, make it where they can see what things are, label properly, you know, make sure that you give them instructions on what to do. Every time I made a delivery to Joe's house, I would just have, I mean, it can just be a cute little card, or it could be, you know, a loose leaf piece of paper that just had the menu that I had, the sides that went with everything, and how to heat it up, how to serve it. That way, when, you know, you're unpacking everything, there's no guesswork. And that's another thing too. Speaking of packing things, is Ziploc bags obviously is another thing, but I packed pretty much everything separate. If I'm going to have a topping for something, pretty much it's going to be in its own little bag, or, you know, just because it's easier to transport, and, you know, things don't start getting all kind of mushy or whatever.
So, like, for instance, to clarify, if you're sending a salad that has feta and then maybe strawberries and then dressing, you're going to put everything in a different either bag or little jar or little whatever, and then with instructions on how to assemble.
Yes. Now, one thing I will say, and I'm glad you brought that up, because the dishes that I'm going to share, any and all of them, to put a green salad with any of it, that can be your main thing. Okay. And when I would deliver a salad, I would always do it in a foil pan with the lid, you know, with the little plastic lid over it. And it would always be, I would take a blend of like a spring mix, arugula mix, whatever kind of mix, depending on the season. And I would add to that either chopped romaine for a little more substance, or chopped iceberg, kind of mix those together. But the things I put separately would be considered more wet items.
Yes.
Into that lettuce, I rarely did chopped onions unless they're green onions. For a salad in particular, you know, you can chop those green onions, they're already in there. You know, everything around it is not going to be oniony, if that makes sense. You know how when you chop up onions, it's like everything and everywhere.
Yeah.
So I made a point in that lettuce mix, I would use green onions and I would use cherry or grape tomatoes. I would go ahead and put those in there. Or if you're using, like you said, you might put grapes on the salad, but strawberries in their own little container. So the wetter ingredients, definitely in their own container. If I'm doing like a shredded, like a lot of times when I would do an Italian salad, like with a vinaigrette, obviously the vinaigrette's going to be in its own jar. But for cheese, I would grate that Asiago cheese because it's kind of a drier cheese. And I'd go ahead and put that on there. So you kind of limits what they have to do, right? But making sure that everything stays intact.
So was there I was going to ask if there were a go-to salad, but just share with us, you had some regular things that you made over and over that were a hit and that you think anyone would be able to duplicate. Would you share some of those with us?
Yes, absolutely. And I have to say, at the top of the list is your family savvy white chicken chili.
Well, thank you, but I've got to give full credit to our wonderful friend, Melanie Nichols. She is our Warren Averett. She handles all of our stuff. And she shared that recipe with me. And I put it on. She said I could put it out there, and everybody went crazy. And I've cooked my whole life. Never had I heard of that. But anyway, share that. And that is a great thing to take to people.
So good. And it's just, to me, it's like the epitome of comfort food, and you can have it any time of the year.
Yeah.
And you can put toppings with it. Obviously, just so much you can do with it. And we would always serve it. And I think you probably served it over rice or
tortilla chips. Yes. I'm a big chip person. And let me tell everyone watching or listening, you don't have to stop and write anything down. We will link to all of this in the show notes, so you can just enjoy the conversation and get the details later. So, okay.
Yes. So one of the things that was his favorite, and it still tying into the white chicken chili, is they would call it Riri rice. My nickname's Riri. And I am telling you, this rice, okay, this is not my recipe. It's just one I've used over the years. I would give credit to whoever, but I think it's probably somewhere around the internet. But it is the most perfect. It starts on the stove and you end up in the oven. The easiest and most delicious. It's got that perfect balance of butter and salt and, you know, white pepper. And so it's great by itself, and it's great under chili or any other thing that you want. But she would, like Melissa, Joe's wife, they would just be eating it on its own, or they would add it to soups. So easy. And we have it probably several times a week.
And you shared that with me, and it's on the blog. It's called Perfect Rice Every Time, and I give you full credit. So that recipe you can link to. And Marie, it is fab. You are right. It's almost foolproof.
Yes.
I'll say that it's perfect every time. It's never not perfect.
That's correct.
The flavor, it's just so good. Yes.
So
that rice is a good dish for someone maybe who doesn't feel great, because it's a good carb, and it's not spicy, but it has flavor. That is a great, I'm glad to know that that's one of a big, thing to take.
So good. And so simple. Now, one of the other things, I'm just like looking at my notes, speaking of the rice too, one of his favorite dishes was an Indian butter chicken. And okay, let me start by saying that EJ says, I hate Indian food. I don't like anytime I make this, as he's talking about how much he hates it, he's
eating it.
I mean, there's never anything left. And I'm like, what are you talking about?
And EJ is her husband, who we just adore. Zach and I adore him as much as we adore. That is so funny. So he still says he hates it as he eats the butter chicken.
Yeah, I don't like that butter chicken. And then I'll make it, and he's like, licking his plate, and I'm like, it's so good. This is actually a takeoff of Half-Baked Harvest, and I'm sure probably a lot of people. She's amazing.
She's amazing.
Mm-hmm. But I took her. It's like, I think it's called 30-minute butter chicken. I toned down some of the ginger, some of the cayenne a little bit, and I don't think you miss it. I'll be happy. People could probably Google that recipe.
Sure.
And again, I'm not. She's perfect. Tegan Gerard is perfect. Half-Baked Harvest. She's amazing. So I'm not trying to say her recipe is not good. I just toned it down a little bit when I was cooking for my brother, making sure that it was not too spicy. But even taking, I think she calls for like 2 tablespoons of ginger, and I do 2 teaspoons. So it's a good bit less spicy, and probably half the cayenne pepper. Mm-hmm. But I will tell you, anybody that might go, butter chicken, I don't understand, is it too much? But no, you need to put all the butter that is asked for in that chicken. And it absolutely, while you're cooking it, it'll just say, put a pat of butter in. Put a pat of butter in. So it's kind of over that you need to put all those pats of butter. If you make it, you need all the pats of butter. And it's just amazing. It's so
I'm going to make this. I mean, I think, how do you pronounce her name? I mean, she's a legend.
It's Tegan, and I don't know if it's Gerard or Gerard.
Tegan, the Half-Baked Harvest.
Precious.
She's amazing. Precious. So I'm going to Google her recipe, and I will link to her blog for it, but then just say, so basically what you're saying is you toned that down, which we need to do if we're cooking for, I mean, I think
that's a good point.
Err on the side of less spicy, and they can always add more, because sometimes when you don't feel well or you're on certain medications, spices can cause it's
Absolutely.
not appetizing. So that's a very good tip right there. So you've got the Family Savvy or Melanie Nichols white chili chicken and the Half-Baked Harvest butter chicken with your perfect rice. So you can rotate that, because
my goodness,
rice is just a bedrock.
It's so good. And another thing, like when you do the white chicken chili, I would always include all of the toppings, the sour cream, the sharp cheddar, the cilantro. I would always send chips and a pico de gallo, things like that. So you have your little main dish, and then make sure that you send all of the accompaniments and just label them for that. With the Indian butter chicken, that naan bread, either the small ones or the,
you can get the small ones now. I saw that.
Yes. And all you need to do with that, I think people can get intimidated. Well, I don't know what I'm going to do with this long bread. Honey, all you have to do, spray it with a little olive oil and sprinkle a tiny little bit of garlic salt and stick it in the oven for about, 350 for about maybe 5 or 10 minutes. It is amazing. Amazing.
And then you could throw some hummus in there or just
so eat. Good. So good.
That's one thing I've never made myself. I'm making that butter chicken. And
it's so good.
Okay. So what else?
Okay. So on the vegetarian side, and these are little things that, sometimes you think, oh, can I just send that? Yes, you can. Again, when you send a salad with something, because I think we, especially as Americans, or maybe in the South, we think, okay, you got to have a meat, you got to have a this, you got to have a that.
That's right.
So, but one of Joe and Melissa's favorite things that I made was just a simple twice-baked potato. And when I tell you, they're so easy to make. And it is so comforting, you can make them ahead. What I would do, you obviously you bake the potatoes, you dig the insides out, you put it in just a mixer. It's so easy with either half and half or milk, sour cream, salt and pepper, and then stuff the potatoes back and cool them down in the refrigerator. And when you go to deliver them is when I would put the cheese on them. And I would just put them in the little foil pan with the plastic top. They fit in there perfect, one of those Reynolds pans.
Mm-hmm.
And which that reminds me too, those little freeze-dried chives? Any brand.
Yes.
Just in the grocery store.
Yeah, and the spice section in the jar, the dry. Yes.
When you sprinkle those on something, the taste is good, but it just looks a little prettier, if that makes sense, than just sending like a white potato or something.
You know what? It reminds me of a poppy seed. Poppy seeds, they don't add a lot, but they make a lemon cake look better. They make a chicken casserole. Yes, I agree. Those chives, freeze-dried. I need to get.
Yes, and cilantro's the same way. When you think about some of these dishes that don't have a lot of color to them, put just a little of the fresh herb and stuff on top. Or like I said, those freeze-dried chives, I think is what they are. I go through tons of those.
Do you get yours at Costco?
I just get them at the grocery.
Yeah.
So, but I'm sure
that's a good point. I've used them before, but I never really thought about how that can elevate aesthetically a dish, because they don't have that much taste, but the little bit of onion, that is perfect. That is a great tip. I'm going to put that tip in there. So this is awesome. Okay.
I love it. So another vegetarian dish, so easy, is I would make them these little mini bean burritos. And all it is, the first time I made them, I was just shocked when it came back. Would you please make those burritos again? And I'm thinking they were just so easy, but they just loved them. But you just literally take a taco size, if you want to do the mini size, taco size, flour tortilla. I would just get the refried beans with the green chilies in them, just the canned refried beans. Smear those on the top of that flour tortilla, sprinkle a little green onion and a few drops of, it's called Jalapeno Condiment, and it's got a little sunshine face.
It's called.
I know I've gotten it at Fresh Market. If not, you could certainly do just a few little drops of taco sauce or something like that. But that jalapeno.
Wait, but I want to know what you use.
Okay,
is it in the section with condiments like ketchup and all that?
I'm gonna see if it's got a sunshine face on it.
And it's called Jalapeno Condiment.
And that sounds so weird.
Yeah, this is super important. This is it.
There it is.
Oh my goodness. Okay. I'm glad we researched.
Are you looking at this? Is that
Yellow bird?
Yellow bird.
Yellow bird jalapeno condiment. Okay, Marie Marino.
Okay.
I have never seen this. It's made it. Where do you find all of these things?
I don't know, but I am telling you, whenever I make any kind of bowl, any kind of Mexican bowl, any kind of Oriental bowl, I mean, my family loves that.
Oriental bowl too?
Yes. I mean, we eat hot sauce on everything.
So it's like a hot sauce, but it's jalapeno.
But it's just got a great flavor.
Where do you get this?
Look and see if I think you can get it at
they have a ghost pepper version, habanero. So
yes,
which one did you use?
Okay, the green one's too hot. The best one is the jalapeno.
Okay,
I'm telling you right now, but it's yellow bird.
My
habanero is going to burn your tongue off.
Okay, my YouTube.
That was a sriracha, and I mean that's coming from somebody that really eats hot food. That's the best one.
All right, my YouTube people, look, this is, and that's good. That's you said it was a sun, but it's a yellow bird that looks.
Oh, it's a yellow bird with a halo.
That's the sun behind. Okay, I guess. Anyway, okay, so this is it, and then I'll link to it, y'all. Yay! So you did bean burrito. You did a burrito, a flour tortilla, refried beans spread on it, and then some of this and some cheese,
chopped green onion, just shredded cheese. And roll it up burrito style. And then I individually wrapped each one of them, you know, in their own. That's why I need the individual foil sheets. I go through so many of them. But you individually wrap them. And here's why. It keeps them together. Now, the refried beans are going to pretty much make them stick together. But you don't want them all over each other. You want them to be able to pick up one or two or whatever, and not have, because it'll make, that one can will make at least 12 of them. So I mean, it's a very economical, but it's so good.
How do they heat them, Marie? Do they just grab one and heat it in the toaster oven? Because you can't put foil in the microwave.
Correct. You can heat it in a toaster oven or the regular oven. I served it. I would always send that fresh pico from the deli, any type of fresh pico, some cheese dip with it and chips. And of course, riri rice goes with it. That's a whole meal.
Oh, yeah.
Here's another way you can heat it up. And I think Melissa told me this is what they did. So you can heat it up in the oven, but you can also unwrap them, put a little butter in the skillet, and that's too good. It's too good.
Yeah, I was going to ask if there was a skillet option. You could even spray it with EVOO or avocado, and it gets it brown, and it changes it. I can eat flour tortillas plain or cooked. They're fabulous, but okay, now
that's so easy and so inexpensive. And I'm gonna tell you, kids love it. Kids love them.
Yes, and I'm going to be making this, guys. This is going to be small group one night.
I love it.
We've got all our angels and they eat, the boys eat.
I love it.
We're always trying to find something filling that's delicious.
Yes.
Who would not love this?
So good.
And for the non-vegetarian, you could just even put turkey meat or chicken.
Oh, absolutely. Okay. Absolutely.
This is one.
So easy.
Love this.
Okay. So another vegetarian dish that, and again, think about you think, oh my gosh, I can't go take somebody, baked potatoes or, yes, you can. Yes, you can. I think we have to get out of the mindset of, I'm in the South, I need to go bring a casserole. No, you don't.
That's true.
You got to get out, got to get away from that. Okay. Another thing that he absolutely loved was the maple mashed sweet potatoes. First of all, if you've never made sweet potatoes in a crock pot, you need to make them in a crock pot. Your little casserole, I went out and bought your little casserole size crock pot, the little small one. I mean, you get it at Walmart for like $30, I think. I mean, so I have a great big all-clad one, but I ended up buying one of those. And okay, you wash the sweet potatoes and put them in that crock pot on low for 4 hours. So you don't even have to think about it. Mm-hmm. When I tell you, it makes the most perfect sweet potatoes. So you could eat a sweet potato like that, but what I would do is they're fluffy. That's the only way I can describe it. You know, sweet potatoes can get stringy. Something about cooking them in that crock pot, they get fluffy. So the only thing I would do is I would take them out. I would cook about 4 of them, take them out, put them in my mixer, and I would mash them with a little bit of maple syrup and some mascarpone cheese. Yum. And it's so good and so easy. And that and a green salad, a fresh green salad, that is so healthy and so good. Throw in Chicago Italian bread, and I'm ready for lunch right now.
Hey guys, y'all are Marie's favorite and my favorite. They're in the same place, Costco. I'm the Rosemary Parmesan. It's 2 big loaves. I'm going to try yours, the Chicago loaf, but y'all, Costco has some of the best bread anywhere. So we cannot let that fact fly out the window. And you've got so much that you can freeze a loaf, send a loaf to your person, you then revisit the other loaf at a later time. But okay, these sweet potatoes. Oh, okay.
So good. And so easy. So easy. Okay. This is vegetarian, and then pasta. I got a couple of pasta dishes, which let me go ahead and say, if you are making a pasta dish for someone, undercook your pasta a little bit, because when they go to heat it up, if you cook that pasta all the way through and then they go to heat it all up again, then it's going to be mushy, and still probably tastes good, but I don't really like mushy pasta. So I would definitely say that undercook your pasta a little bit for that, or even if you're making it I have a couple of soups I'll share, but undercook the pasta a little bit. So,
I say be so careful. A lot of people just do not realize you've got to watch your pasta al dente. And I don't even know if I'm saying that right. It's got to be firm to the tooth.
Yeah.
If that pasta doesn't have a little bit of firm when you bite, then it's mushy and it's not going to taste good. So thank you for that tip. Always
definitely need to do that. Yes. Okay. So probably it's called Italian penne with 5 cheeses. It is a pasta this is from Ina Garten. Everyone needs this cookbook. Everyone.
She's fab.
She's amazing. This is an old cookbook. I have made probably everything in this cookbook multiple times. And I will tell you, I have a lot of cookbooks. And I'm a 7 on the Enneagram, so I'm all about all the books, all the cookbooks, all that. Yeah. But there's not very many. I might take 1 or 2 out of here, but that family style, Barefoot Contessa family style, that cookbook is amazing.
So you've made almost everything out, and I'm going to order that. I've got several. I don't know if I don't have that one. So she just.
It's old. It's an older book. But it's a goodie.
Okay.
Now, in that cookbook, I kind of did a riff on her penne with 5 cheeses, and it is hands down, it's like an Italian mac and cheese. Kids love it. Adults love it. I don't know anybody that doesn't love it. The cool thing is you can put it with chicken fingers for kids, that you can have it as a side. You can have it by itself with a green salad. But the base of it is it's got some cream in it, some fresh tomatoes. And while Ina Garten may use a certain type of five different types of cheeses, let me tell you something. As long as you do, she does, I think, let's see, like mozzarella, fontina, romano, gorgonzola, whatever.
Wow.
The only thing that I'm ever tied to is she calls for ricotta cheese, like 3 tablespoons of that, and mozzarella. So those are the 2 that I stick to. And a lot of times, and I will tell you, if I do an Italian pasta dish, I will use those little balls of mozzarella, the fresh mozzarella, rather than the slice. They're just a little easier to me.
They're in water, right? Oh, there's some that are.
Yes.
Not in water.
But those are the 2 that I stick to. Otherwise, you can do, for the other cheeses, you can do whatever kind of white cheeses. I've made it with any and every kind of cheese, and it comes out delicious. And when I again, I feel like I'm saying easy way too much, but it is such an easy recipe. You dump everything in a giant bowl, the cream, the tomatoes, the grated cheese, the ricotta, some Italian seasoning and salt and pepper. You make your pasta, you dump it in, you stir it up, and you put it in a pan. It is phenomenal. It's comfort food at its finest. It's easy.
And it reheats easily, doesn't it?
Yes. Now, I will say this. There's two things that, because I make this all the time. If I'm going to take this to someone and I'm not sure if they're going to eat it immediately, I will go ahead and freeze it. And here's why, because this is one of those ones that you need to cook it, if that makes sense. You need to go ahead and cook it rather than let it sit for days in the refrigerator, if that makes sense.
Yes.
It's better in the first day or two. It's just better. Mm-hmm. So if I think that somebody's getting a lot of food delivered to them, then I will go ahead and freeze it and take it. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I know you would say this, if you have time and want to make some dishes or have some extra pasta around and decide, hey, I'm going to make this and freeze it. Don't feel bad about taking somebody's food that's frozen. It's fine.
It's better to take it to them frozen and then if you don't know their schedule, then to take something that in a day or two, they're going to be saying, okay, I'm going to eat this now. And it's not the best quality.
It's I totally agree.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Right. And the other thing that I would say is it calls to dot butter, a substantial, I think, amount of butter on top, if I remember correctly. It's like 4 tablespoons, but you actually take cold butter and you actually dot it on top. And I freeze it like that too.
Yeah.
I know that one time I gave this recipe to a friend and she came back and said, I don't know what happened with this recipe. It just seems like it's all like greasy. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And she had actually melted the butter and went ahead and just added it all in. And I'm like, no, you cannot do that. No. So dot the butter on the top at the end, cold butter. So but you can Google that recipe. I think she puts hers in individual ramekins.
Okay.
I do a full pan. But that's one that you can certainly get from.
And what's the name of it again? And I'll link to her.
Penne with 5 cheeses.
Penne with 5 cheeses. Okay.
And I will say I add a little extra garlic salt. You know, that's the Italian in me. I'm gonna be zhuzhing up some stuff, but it's phenomenal. All those recipes in that book are great. And then a vegetarian pasta dish is and I believe this one's half-baked harvest as well, but it's pesto pasta alla vodka. So simple. You are making a sauce in a skillet while you're cooking the pasta, and you dump that pasta in and sprinkle a little cheese on top. It's made with just a jarred pesto, so do get a good quality jarred pesto. I'm not a pesto fan, I'll be honest with you. I love this recipe. To quote Joe's wife, Melissa, I could drink this sauce. Just delicious. And it's kind of spicy. It's got some red pepper flakes in there. It's phenomenal. So that's penne pasta alla vodka.
Penne pasta. And you think it's Tegan?
Yes. Half-baked harvest.
And I will say, if you're going to use it, because it's a big amount, Costco has a very good pesto. It's large. And then I will say Buitoni, in the refrigerated section of the grocery, Cooks Illustrated rated that like the best grocery store pasta. And it's in a little plastic container near the refrigerated mozzarella. That's a good one too. And then Rayo's is a good jarred version, I think.
Yep.
Rayo's.
And one final thought on this particular recipe, when I have made it, it's better eaten immediately. So when I send this for someone, put the pasta in a Ziploc bag and have the sauce separate in just a little Tupperware.
And they just mix it up. Okay.
And it's delicious. And another note about packaging up pasta when you're putting it in a Ziploc, if you're going to send it separate, because I actually do that with soups and with a pasta like this. I do not put that pasta in the soup. because it gets overdone, and then they're going to come in there and try to cook it again. And so now you've just got mush, and it absorbs liquid, the liquid up too much. So what I always do, no matter what kind of pasta, drain that pasta. Again, we're going to undercook it to a real bite, more of a bite than al dente. Rinse it off real good. And then I put olive oil and a little bit of salt on it. Yeah. And then you put it in a Ziploc bag and put it in the
stops it from cooking any further. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So.
Oh, okay. These were your go-to recipes, and you just rotated these in and out. I mean, this is anyone could make any of these.
Yes.
They're so delicious. You've got vegetarian options. Marie, this is, and then you've got your package instructions. You tell everyone how to, whoever you're taking it to, you label it, give them full instructions, tell them what it is. This is amazing. I mean, this is amazing. Are there any other tips that would help?
Well, I'm trying to think. We talked about, one of the things, and I will give you a couple of soup recipes that you can include. Okay. That are just some of their favorites and some of the repeats like that my daughter makes all the time. You know, Mom, send me that recipe again. Yeah. I will definitely link some of those for you. One of them's a creamy chicken tortellini that has a coconut milk instead of like cream, which is good if you're, trying to watch dairy. And the other is just a simple Italian lemon chicken soup, which, chicken soup for the salt, that is it. That is it's a feel good soup, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So we can link those. For some sweets and things like that, a lot of times I included, you can do little things. If you're not a baker, don't worry about it. Some people can cook, some people bake, some people can do both. Some people, can't do either. It's fine. But I would always try to send a little sweet, even if it's, animal crackers or a favorite cookie. I have, there's a gluten-free, I think they're called monster cookies, and it's just like a peanut butter and oatmeal base. It's got little M&Ms in it. And those
have a recipe for that?
Yes. And they're gluten-free, fantastic. So good. Ooh. Those were some of his favorite desserts. And muffins too, because muffins can be eaten in the morning, same thing with a pound cake. And depending on the season, there are so many good muffin recipes out there. Half-Baked Harvest in and of herself, Tegan has amazing ones, but there's a lot of muffin recipes out there. That's always a good, kind of sweet, because it doesn't have to be necessarily a dessert. They could eat it throughout the day. And the same thing with the bread or a pound cake or any of your favorite things like that.
Oh, so, and you'll share the gluten-free monster cookie and this is so wonderful. So you've included, and last thing I want to ask, do you have any specific tips for, now he was your brother and it's family, and the parameters are more fluid about you coming in or whatever. What would you say to someone who you are taking food to a friend, but they don't really want company, but how do you just maybe let them know, hey, I'm coming, I'm going to bring this, tell me a good time to bring this and I'll put it at the door. Give a little bit of speaking to that, because when it's family, you can come in, you can do whatever, but what if it's someone that we're not quite as intimate with?
Well, that is a great question. I'm so glad you brought it up, because even though, that was my brother, very close with him and his family, sometimes, they may have had a very difficult doctor's appointment, or they may be exhausted because they were up all night, with him feeling bad. So you were exactly right in being very empathetic towards maybe what the family's feeling, and maybe they don't want guests. And I will say, a lot of the times I might be coming in from the lake and needing to drop off food and run another errand and couldn't get by when they might even be up. So I would tell them, I ended up dropping, for them, I dropped off a cooler that we had from the lake that was just a giant monster cooler. And the whole joke would be, hey, are y'all up, or do you want to put the cooler out? Or sometimes if I didn't hear from them, I'd see that yellow cooler out on their doorstep. I just knew to load it up. Well, it's kind of the same thing. You know, there's so many, I mean, you could get a little styrofoam cooler, you know, and, you know, from the grocery store or something like that. But definitely be conscious of maybe what that family is going through. And if you need to just leave it, make sure you've got a way to keep it protected. You know, there's a lot of soft-sided coolers out there, or maybe the person that's accepting food will have a cooler just to sit outside the door. Because I mean, it can be hot, it can be cold, there could be an animal that could come by. So definitely be conscious of that and find out, if there's a good time or if it's more appropriate to just leave it at, like you said, at the door or in a covered porch or something like that. But I'm glad you brought that up, because sometimes I think that makes us a little hesitant. We think, oh, well, I mean, they might not want to visit her, or they're struggling right now. Right. But I would still go back to just show up, show up with food.
And Marie, I cannot echo that enough, because there is nothing. And we even remember when we had babies and it was a joyful time, but it was stressful to have food brought and left. And of course a visit's fine, but there were times when all you wanted to do was go to bed.
Yeah.
Food is love. Food is a gift that keeps on giving. And you have so beautifully articulated and laid out a way to do it long term or short term, how to do it without being intrusive, how to do it where you're catering to certain dietary needs, how to do it, where they don't have to return things. I mean, you have helped so many of us. I mean, I've learned.
I hope so.
I've taken food before too, but I've learned so many tips from you, and wow, thank you. I mean, you need to write a book and have a blog. I mean, you are so savvy and you're such an angel in just so many ways, but you are a servant. You bless many people. You have showers, you have wonderful dinners in your home, but you've broken this down for any of us, because this is all doable. Everything you've shared is
doable. It is. Well, thank you so much,
Marie, and everyone. Again, all of this will be in the show notes and recipes and tips and so forth. So thank you all for tuning in. And Marie, thank you, and love you to pieces.
I love you. We'll see you soon.
Okay. Bye.